Hi, Ben. My name is Maria. Thank you so much for the talk. I'm not a Chexie user yet, but I will become one.
Love it.
Especially after listening to how passionate you are about Chexie and the whole fintech world. Usually, all the fintech talks I go to, they're very different from how you describe it. So it was really amazing. I'm curious, are you bullish on B2B these days? Because you mentioned that you're actually partnering with large partners and you're getting customers from there. So I wonder if you're still bullish on B2C, or are you changing the proportions there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're very bullish on both, and I think similar to kind of the previous answer, a lot of the problems that we see on the B2B side with the landlords or large business owners that we deal with, a lot of them have kind of the same core thread that runs through them. And so on the business side, for example, one thing that we always talk to about businesses is on the payee side, of course, being able to pay things like large suppliers, business taxes, all that kind of stuff, which is still very core to us. But then the flip side of it is accepting. And so as we have more businesses on the platform, the natural conversation becomes, well, my current fee with whoever I can't talk about, is 3% or 3.5% or whatever it might be, because of the rates that we've negotiated. Is there a way to keep it in the ecosystem? And that way, if I'm, whatever business, I could be sending out invoices from Chexie. I can have business, users pay my invoices, whatever, land in my account, and then I can pay my bills right out of there. So it's still all core thread to what we want to do. And again, I think, to the previous question, it's like, it's always a little bit of a balance of how far do we want to stray. And I would say we're very much still in the exploratory phase of that. Like, businesses have been a 2026 thing. They're still relatively fresh for us. So we're still trying to figure out how deep do we want to go. But yeah, we know that payments is where we want to be. And so if there are adjacent problems that we can solve there, we're trying to focus attention on that, if that makes sense.
Hi, Ben. Miguel here. I have a good question on the partnerships, like especially like in the early days. Like, how did you go about developing them? Like you mentioned that it was kind of like internal champions. Is this something that you knew how to do? Like, there are the tactical things that you did in the days that helped?
Yeah, I think there's unfortunately an element of luck to it, no question. Like, we always knew where we wanted to go, and I think being in the reward space in Canada, American Express and Aeroplan were always kind of the two big boys, right? Those are the ones that folks use. So we always had that in our minds that we would love to be sparking up those kind of conversations. I think with Aeroplan, again, having a champion on board really made a big difference for us because it opened the door. That being said, obviously that, like I said, it opened the door, did not get us through the door. There's a lot that was required to make that actually happen. But when I think about some of our other partners like, Amex and Visa and MasterCard, no question, there's a lot of outreach. There's a lot of LinkedIn cold messages and meeting with demo people and trying to show value. I think one thing that we always knew is that in order for us to be enticing to any of these partners, we had to have some kind of value. And so, to touch on my landlord comment a little bit earlier, first couple months of Chexie, we spent a lot of time, reaching out to landlords to try to figure out, hey, can we get 1,000 of your tenants on? And like I mentioned, it's like we were too small. They didn't care. We didn't have the credibility. The story now, as we've grown, is very different. I can go to a landlord and say, hey, I already have 3,000 of your tenants on the platform. Is there something we can do? And so that kind of whole rhetoric shifts. And so it was a bit of a combination that we knew where we wanted to go. We were lucky enough that the partners wouldn't make or break us. Like, they were value add and they were stepwise function, but we wouldn't be dead in the water without them. And so when we knew that those were the people that we wanted to go after, we really spent some time thinking about, how do we position ourselves to make sure that when we do reach out, when we do have these conversations, we're coming from a position of strength. We can show projections, we can show where we're going to go, and for us, for example, when we reach out to American Express, like, I can already say, hey, I'm processing 30 million a month on American Express cards, right? So the attention is there and we can have that conversation. But again, obviously it takes time to build up to that. And no question, it's always going to be more difficult when those numbers are smaller and maybe that value isn't, maybe enticing is not the right word, but obvious to the partner, if that, hopefully it makes some kind of sense.